Good evening and welcome to CYC News for today, the 1st of December 2013 AD and the 22nd of Hutud 1730 AM. I'm Christina Maurice. In today's headlines, new attacks on Copts in southern Egypt, Black Friday shopping in the US spoiled by violence, in Nigeria 3 Lebanese nationals are cleared of terrorism, and could cute cats really be the key to learning new languages? Starting in Egypt, militant Muslims in a village in Minya in Upper Egypt launched new attacks on Copts in the village on Friday morning, following violence on Thursday. They set fire to 2 houses and threw stones at Coptic homes and shops, shouting Allahu Akbar in the presence of police forces. The violence may have partially started in reaction to a rumor that one of the village's Muslim girls had been in a relationship with a Christian man. The girl reportedly disappeared 4 days ago. The attacks intensified after the funeral of Muslim youth Hamad Sabir, who died on Thursday. Police forces have been unable to counter the violence because they do not have enough officers and are not equipped to face the growing number of aggressors. Police are protecting the church only, leaving Christian homes to be burnt without protection. At least 4 Copts, including a girl, have been wounded in the sectarian violence. At least 6 Christian homes have been burned and dozens looted. Security forces have started tightening control of the situation 3 hours after the attack started. The police fired tear gas and began sieging El Farouk Omar School, where the roof has been used by extremists to throw Molotov cocktails on the homes of Christians. Father Andrawish, parish priest of the village's Virgin Mary Church, said that at least 4 Copts were injured in the events, including a girl named Yvonne Ecladius, whose arm was broken as she was thrown from the 2nd floor by some of the extremists who stormed the girl's house. The girl's father, Bushra Ecladios, and 2 others were also injured and taken to a hospital. Coptic Christians were subjected to prosecution during the reigns of Anwar Sadat, Hosni Mubarak, and Mohammed Morsi, according to General Bishop Raphael of downtown Cairo churches and Secretary of the Holy Synod of the Coptic Orthodox Church. He said these regimes were against Copts who are now subject to terrorism, because the state does not stand behind what we are exposed to of incidents, but terrorist groups. Bishop Raphael, in his interview today with Egyptian newspaper Al-Watan, said the Muslim Brotherhood has uncovered its true face, so there is no reason for reconciliation with the group. He believed that reconciliation with the Muslim Brotherhood means that June 30 was not a revolution, but a military coup, and means reconciliation with a terrorist group that is against society, civil state, civilization, and Islam itself. He stressed that no faction could overcome another in the community, even if that faction is numerically a minority, because anyone of the land of Egypt has the right to life. And in Egypt, police have arrested a prominent activist accused of calling for protests in defiance of a new law restricting demonstrations. The blogger Alaa Abdul Fattah took part in a rally outside the Upper House of Parliament on Tuesday. Protesters were calling for the repeal of a new law that bans unauthorized demonstrations. Mr. Abdul Fattah played a leading role in the 2011 revolt against Hosni Mubarak. The pro-democracy campaigner was previously detained under Mr. Mubarak's government and questioned over demonstrations against the Muslim Brotherhood early this year. To the United States, where several outbreaks of violence have marred the US Black Friday shopping frenzy as bargain hunters besiege malls across the US. In Chicago, police shot an alleged shoplifter, a robber shot a shopper in Las Vegas, and a Californian police officer was injured in a fight. Black Friday, the day following the Thanksgiving holiday, is the biggest shopping day of the year in the US. This year, it began even earlier amid a trend for Thanksgiving openings. 12 national chains opened their doors on Thursday, advertising aggressive discounts. Some 15,000 shoppers stormed to the flagship Macy's in New York City as it opened for the first time ever on Thanksgiving evening. Some retail analysts have begun to dub the holiday Black Thanksgiving, or Grey Thursday. Workers held demonstrations on Friday outside Walmart stores in the city of Ontario, California, and in Elgin, Illinois, demanding better pay and conditions. There was anecdotal evidence that the Thursday openings have led to an easing off in consumer footfall on Black Friday itself, though the increased popularity of online shopping could be another factor. European Commissioner President José Manuel Barroso has said that the EU will not accept a veto by Russia on the bloc's ties with former Soviet republics. Speaking at an EU meeting in Lithuania, Mr. Barroso said the era of limited sovereignty was over in Europe. The summit failed to revive an association agreement with Ukraine, which was due to be its centerpiece. Ukraine's president said he could not afford to sacrifice trade with Russia, which opposes the deal for EU ties. Many Ukrainians nevertheless protested against the decision. In the capital Kiev, thousands of demonstrators draped in Ukrainian and EU flags and chanting "Ukraine is Europe" formed a human chain from Independence Square along the main street of Kreshchatyak. The protesters said they would demand the resignation of the Ukrainian government and the president, Viktor Yanukovych, and would seek his impeachment. They also promised mass protests across the country. A task force of the Brazilian National Force is to be deployed in areas disputed by Indians and farmers in the western state of Mato Grosso do Sul. The federal force is due to arrive in the region just ahead of an auction to raise funds for the farmers' private security personnel. An Indigenous man was killed in the area in clashes with the police in May. A 2010 court ruling granted the Terina ethnic group exclusive rights over the land, but landowners dispute it. They accuse the Indians of invading their farms in Cidrolandia, which is located 1,200 kilometers west of Rio de Janeiro, and say they have to defend themselves. The resistance auction on 7th of December aims to raise funds for hiring private security guards and is expected to sell at least 1,000 cattle and tons of grain. Three men suspected of being members of Hezbollah have been cleared of terrorism charges by a Nigerian court. The men, all Lebanese nationals, were arrested in May after the discovery of weapons in the northern city of Kano. They denied accusations of plotting attacks on Western and Israeli targets in Nigeria. One of the men was convicted on a weapons charge and jailed for life. Nigerian officials had described the weapons supply as a cell for Hezbollah. The defense lawyer for the three men said he was happy that the terrorism charges had been dismissed. Australia has blocked US conglomerate Archer Daniels Midland's $3.4 billion takeover over Grain Corp, its biggest grain merchant. Treasurer Joe Hockey said the proposal had attracted a high level of concern and an acquisition which would not be in our national interest. Agricultural firms have become takeover targets amid rising global demand for food, especially from emerging markets. Australia is one of the world's largest exporters of wheat. Mr. Hockey considers now is not the right time for 100% foreign acquisitions of this key Australian business, as quoted by the Australian Broadcast Corporation. He added that the industry was going through transition and now is not the right time to have all the major players foreign-owned. Following this, GrainCorp shares fell more than 20% in Sydney. According to scientists, a byproduct of cholesterol can fuel the deadly growth and spread of breast cancer. It raises the prospect that taking cholesterol-lowering drugs called statins could prevent cancer. The work, published in the journal Science, helps explain why obesity is a major risk factor for the disease. However, cancer charities cautioned that it was too soon to advise women to take statins. Obesity has been linked with many cancers, including those of the breast, bowel, and womb. The fat in overweight people can pump out hormones such as estrogen, which drive the growth of cancers. A team at Duke University Medical Center in the US has identified that cholesterol has a similar effect. Cholesterol is broken down by the body, which in fact mimics estrogen and produces the same effect as hormones in some tissues. Experiments on mice showed that a high-fat diet increased levels of 27-HC in the blood and led to tumours that were 30% larger than in mice on a normal diet. UK researchers are warning that soluble painkillers used by millions of people in Britain could pose a health risk because they are high in salt. Some formulations taken at maximum dose tips users over the recommended daily sodium intake for an adult. The work in the BMG looks at the outcomes for 1.2 million UK patients. It found a link between effervescent tablets and heart attacks and stroke. All medicines that contain at least 23 milligrams of sodium in each dose require a label that declares that the product contains sodium. The accompanying patient information leaflet provides information on the quantity of sodium and includes a warning to patients on a low sodium diet to take the amount of sodium in the medicine into account. And on a lighter note, amusing photos of cats may provide hours of entertainment for people browsing online, but can they be used to help people remember things? Funny cat photos and videos have become an online fascination in the last few years and have even created superstars like Grumpy Cat and Nyan Cat, having 2.5 million Facebook fans and more than 100 million views. Now, one app developer thinks it can tap into this trend and use cute cat photos to improve people's memory function when learning languages. A company called Memrise analysed data to see what helped their members retain information. The company discovered an interesting link between the funny photos and people being able to recall phrases. The team studied the results of memory tests to work out which photos worked best. It may be that the internet cat meme craze is entering its next phase as a tool for providing more than just laughs. Ed Cook certainly believes that this is the cause and has high hopes for future apps. He stated that the utopian scenario is that we develop a way of learning languages that works and is authentically hilarious. And that's all for CYC News today. Stay tuned for more Christian content on CYC. From the CYC studios in Sydney, Australia, good night and God bless.